Live from Kent, this is The Late Late Show with Toby Payne-Cook and Ed Finch. And you are listening live.
Live from Kent and Devon, I hope. And Devon Maxon's in the room. We are the penultimate show. Much not correct information from Sir Tom Rogers of the Teachers Talk Radio. A penultimate show, and I put four. Is Ed going to join us? I'm very excited. Welcome.
This is Teachers Talk Radio, and you are listening live. Tune in live at ttradio.org or join in the conversation by downloading the Podbean app and following Teachers Talk Radio. Hashtag TT Radio.
Oh, that slow fade. Oh, does this work? Uh-oh. Where's Ed? Come on, join me, my dear friend. Good evening and welcome to the Toby and Ed late. It's not that late, really, is it? But I know it's late if you're still working. Here he is. CPD Yaff is going to flick up in front of me. Yes, invite. Hello, Ed.
Hello. It has worked. I wasn't expecting.
How's work?
Easy. Got a new telephone, and I was afraid that I was going to have to install the app. It was going to be a nightmare. I'd have forgotten my password, all that. No, straight in. The wonders.
Straight in.
I'm grateful. What are you grateful for this week? What are you grateful? I know I'm leading you in because you're going to talk about this for about 20 minutes. What are you grateful for this week? I'll start. I'm grateful for the wonderful staff at the sex shop. That's CEX. Computer and Entertainment Exchange, I think it is, something like that, in Exeter, who were very nice about honouring the warranty on my phone and didn't make a fuss. It works. It charges. There you go. I'm grateful for that. You're grateful for?
Oh, can we not go there quite yet? Can we not go there yet?
I just want to say houses.
I want to celebrate that it's taken me the least time to log in and prepare for the show, and yet we still started on time than it ever has, because I was downstairs with Anna, my youngest, age 16, who's accompanying me with Gemma, aged 18, and Oliver, aged 20, to Lucca in Italy next Thursday, 1 week tomorrow. We are flying to Lucca, and we are watching a band who I've already seen twice in this month. We're watching a band in Lucca at the Lucca Summer Festival next to the Mura Storiche, which I think is the old city walls of Lucca. We're watching Blur in Italy. But Anna and I were just... Sorry?
In Italy? They seem a peculiarly British band to me. I wonder...
I think they're quite popular in Europe. The song 2 was popular in America, but they didn't crack America with the Britpop park life country housey kind of era. But I think the quality guitaring of Graham Coxon has resonated with some of the sort of, alternative American guitar fans. But Italy's not in America, so I don't know why I'm talking about America. I think Italy, France, Spain. Not famed for their international pop bands, Eurotrash and all that. I mean, they do produce some.
Italy, it's such a beautiful country with such fabulous food and with such an extraordinary and glorious history. Maybe they just think they'd leave the music to us. They're like, well, we could do it, but
they win in opera, don't they? They win in opera.
Are they good in opera, though? I mean, let's question that a little bit. Is not Italian opera the worst of all opera?
I'm not an expert, but you got Puccini, you got Verdi.
I have an opinion. That's why they put me on the radio.
Come on, then, Ed. I didn't know you were an authority on opera as well as folk music. I didn't know you were an authority.
I used to be properly into opera because I used to have an arts marketing job where I drove a van and put leaflets in leaflet racks, and as a result could claim free tickets for anything that was going on within the entire county of Oxfordshire and beyond, Buckinghamshire, Berkshire, Hampshire, even. It was marvellous. I would go and see every opera that was on for a bit. Yeah. And I rapidly learned that Italian opera was not the opera that moved me.
You were a Wagner man, were you?
No, I can't Bide, Wagner. What I like is a bit of Benjamin Britten. Give me a bit of Billy
Britten.
Budd. Give me a
He's
bit
good.
of Peter
I like
Grimes.
Britten.
What?
Yeah. I like Britten.
Love Britain. I'm a big Britain fan. I mean, I know. I mean, there's more. I'm a complex person, Toby. I'm not just 3 opinions and 240 characters. You know, I have depth. I have hinterland. My great love of the music of Benjamin Britten. It may not have come up in this radio program, you know, but you know, I'm full of surprises to the end. Whereas I would say your great love of Blur may have been described at length in. I don't remember it, but it may have been. So, what do you think? Because I have to say, Blur. I'm not being rude. I'm not. Honestly, they never touched me, so to speak. What is it that makes them such a pivotal band for you?
I don't. That's It's a really good question.
You were.
Well, no, because Park. I was So their first album, Leisure, which was not a big. Isn't really what they're particularly famous for, I suppose. But that was quite, it was a big indie album, and they were sort of associated with Baggy and the Charlatans and the Stone Roses and that sort of Manchester scene. But they're very much Londoners, Blur, Londoners or Essexers, and they. But I loved "There's No Other Way," which was actually their second single, but from Leisure, was a dance floor classic when I was a student in the indie disco. "There's No Other Way" was very closely played with "Size of a Cow" by the Wonder Stuff, and there "Smells Like Teen Spirit" by Nirvana, "She Sells Sanctuary," The Cult. These songs were all played in an important sequence at the end of a very drunken, moshy sort of student night. And so I loved Blur in '91 as an first year undergraduate. And then I didn't follow Blur because I was still quite a retro music fan, and I was still listening to a lot of Stones and a lot of late '60s, early '70s stuff. But I did before Blur introduced the Kinks and the Small Faces and stuff to everybody via Parklife. I did love the Kinks and the Small Faces. I was quite into that '60s thoughtful pop, and particularly the Kinks. And so I liked that. So when Parklife came out in '94, I didn't notice at the time. Bit of a confession: Modern Life is rubbish. So I didn't notice that. Although I think I watched, which is their second album, which is they're very proud of, and they revisit quite heavily on this tour. And the new album's quite rooted in that. But Parklife was very much written, I think, to be a successful indie pop record. Damon Albarn is a bit in your face. He rubs people up the wrong way. He's a very intense, hyperactive man, but undeniably a great song. His songcraft and his is great. So I think that appealed, the hooks and all that sort of stuff. But I saw, so Parklife came out when I first bought. It was one of the first CDs I bought. So I got a CD player for the first time in autumn '93, and separate stereo system, and Parklife. I just remember reading the review of it in Q magazine, and I just thought it was just an absolutely brilliant album. Not just the big hits, not just the famous songs, Girls and Boys and Parklife, but I loved the variety of it. And then I saw them live at Glastonbury 1994 for the first time, on the what's now called the other stage, but it was called the NME stage back then. And they played at 9:30 on Sunday evening, the same day that Oasis first played that stage and Pulp first played that stage. And it was really a very good day on the second stage at Glastonbury in Sunday 1994, and I just loved it. So it was really Blur who introduced me to enjoying. I was a bit timid, and I wasn't really into. Lots of friends of mine were into going to Pixies gigs and Sonic Youth gigs and Nirvana gigs and Reading Festival, around sort of 91, 92. And I wasn't into that. So Blur was my hook, if you like, into the festival scene, and then of course I like guitar music. I like guitar pop music. I love the Beatles, late Beatles, and I love the Stones, and I love and I love all that. So Blur were the incarnation of that. I always preferred them to Oasis because I mean, Oasis were fresh and exciting on their first album, but I don't dislike Oasis. But I just think musically they're rather one-trick ponies. They're rather dull. Whereas Blur, and also I fell in love with the guitar work of Graham Coxon from very early on. So watching him live, I think Blur are an astonishingly good live band. So I know a lot of people who go, well, Blur aren't that great, because they've got these, slightly Mockney sort of accents and Albon's a bit, but also they're a bit rooted in punk. Their favourite bands are sort of, the Jam, the Clash, the Specials, the Who. Graham Coxon loved, and I like that punk energy at the root of them, offset with the kind of melancholy, lyrical balladry that they have done in latter years as well. So I don't know. They've just always been fantastic live. I just think Graham Coxon's the most fascinating guitarist to watch. He's incredibly energetic, and he can do things with his guitar and his effects pedals that seldom few other guitarists I've ever watched live can do. And then there's just a romantic story about them as well. They're four boys. The two Graham and Damon met when they were 12 and 13, which was mentioned on stage at Wembley. The chance of two intensely creative, leaders of their musical generation meeting at school, age 12 and 13 in Colchester and Essex. I mean, it's just, and then they're just four boys. They're a bit of a gang. And there's been a lot of emotion, and they split up, and they've not completely split up, but they've broken apart. So all that emotion weaves into it, I think. And I'll stop talking in one or two more sentences. And also, I think, interestingly, they are four men with one sister each, so they don't have brothers, so they're sort of like, they're each other's brothers as well. So it's just that, it's just something, I don't know, I just love them. And yeah, I can see the arguments against them. I can see why people like Ben Newmark always argues with me about it on Twitter, always used to, about, but I can see how Damon Albarn can wind people up, but it was just such a celebratory, positive thing at Wembley. I don't think of them as being a stadium band. I think of the Rolling Stones and U2 and Coldplay and Bon Jovi as being sort of stadium bands. But the quality of the songs, the energy with which they play with, the fatness of the sound, and the pure nostalgia and joy that it induced in 90,000 people both nights, was just a joy to behold. So there you go.
There you go.
That's my treatise on Blur.
Well, that was quite good. That was a good comprehensive answer to a question I haven't asked you to prep. My cook at school, Marie, shout out to Marie Clark if you're listening. I doubt it, but if you are, she went to a gig last night. Now, bear in mind, listeners, if you don't know, we work in Chagford. Chagford being a small town. It's called a town. It's a village, really, but we pretend it's a town in the heart of Dartmoor. Last night, she went to see the Hollywood Vampires in Birmingham. Now, that takes dedication, doesn't it? She said she got home at 3 last night, and she was up again at 7 to come to work to do a roast dinner for all the children.
Brilliant.
But I was like, wow. She goes, well, I love them, and I don't want to be that person who's given up on their life for their job. So she did that. But she said the best thing was they did Paranoid, and Tommy Iommi from Sabbath came on stage and played it with them.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, wow. I mean, that's not a kind of... The Hollywood Vampires is not a band I'm likely ever to travel to Birmingham to see. But the joy of that...
I don't think I've heard of them.
Well, I mean, I think if you're into dramatic metal, you would have heard of them, and you'd think they were the best thing ever. And if you weren't into that form of music, you wouldn't have heard of them. It's that sort of thing. Like people who are into that are really into that.
Oh, yeah.
Who, there's so much that I just love that about music. You can be talking to somebody in a pub and they can be totally passionate about something you've never heard of. You're looking into it and you go, oh my God, these people are selling out, 50,000 seater venues all over South America. But it's a closed book to me. Sometimes
I love the title. Talking of 50,000, I love the title of the fall, the best of the fall. Their sort of best of collection is called 50,000 Fall Fans Can't Be Wrong, which is, I think, a brilliant line. People, I'm always fascinated by why people like what they like and why they don't like what they don't like. You know, the subjectivity of taste, particularly in music,
Almost
it's
always about
fascinating.
the associations they make, isn't it? You know, whether it's associations to social groupings or associations with formative experiences. You know, I love folk music. I love folk music. You know, I do. It's in my heart and it's my soul. I probably will always love it. I think I probably will always. It's been with me, that great love, since I was about 15, and I went to see a production of a show called Lark Rise to Candleford. Well,
Yes.
yeah, I went to see that. It wasn't called Lark Rise. It was called Lark Rise. It was two shows. There was Lark Rise and Candleford. The one I saw was Lark Rise. I saw it at the Almeida Theatre in Islington.
Yeah.
On a school trip, you know, on a school trip, I went to see this show at that time, knowing nothing at all about folk music.
Mm-hmm.
Watched this show, which had a stellar on-stage band of people I quickly learned were, you know, superstars like like Ashley Hutchings was in it, who is a terrible person, but there you go. And I can't remember who else was in it, but it was like an all-star band live on stage. But I didn't know that. I just went to see this show as part of my drama O level, and I walked out of that theatre, a total fan.
Yeah.
In fact, I went home and I said to my mum, I said, "You've got to see this show. It's amazing. You've got to see the show." So we bought tickets and went back up a couple of weeks later, me and my sisters, and everybody, they were all completely nonplussed. What on earth does he see in this? Again, the second time I saw it through, I thought it was fabulous. And then I sort of researched as best you could. This is pre-internet, my friend. So I tried to find out what I could about the people on stage and found out that they were related to this band and that was related to that band. And,
yeah.
You know,
I used to love the Rough Guide to Rock for that. So pre-internet, pre you know, the Rough Guide, as in the travel Rough Guide publisher. Yeah, you find out a band you like, and then you research what bands they like, and then you go back, and then all that.
You know, who plays on this? There's this concertina player called John Kirkpatrick, and then you find out that he's on this thing. So you're like, I guess what it took me months to do to put together my early passion for folk and folk rock music. It just sounds terrible, doesn't it? It's 52. I'm the right age for it now. When I was 16, it was distinctly odd.
But it's not, though, Ed. It's not odd at all. It's niche. It's niche, but it's not odd.
And it's lovely. And it's the first time I went to Cropredy Festival and stood in a field with thousands and thousands and thousands of people who bizarrely shared this taste. You know, there was a real sense of a sort of a homecoming thing going on. Anyway, yeah. So,
it was the first time I went to Wembley Stadium. It's the first time I've been into the new Wembley Stadium at all ever. So I went the only Wembley Stadium music gigs I've been to. I'm rather skeptical about large stadium gigs and sort of purpose-built pyramid stage headlines at Glastonbury. You know, I'm rather skeptical about bands like Coldplay that go, right, we need to write songs that are going to transcend 90,000 people and we're going to get them all to hold lights in the air and stuff. I'm rather skeptical about formulaic, and of course all pop songs are written with that in mind to some extent, but I do tend to prefer music that's just written, from the muse and stuff, which Blur perhaps don't fit that completely because they are trying to sell quite a lot of records and play live to quite a lot of people. But I when last went to Wembley Stadium in 1999 and saw the Stones. I saw the Rolling Stones at Wembley Stadium 3 times: 1990, 1995, and 1999. I think I saw U2 there in 1993 with all the TVs, the Zoo TV tour, and then Simple Minds was my first proper gig, and that happened to be at Wembley Stadium in 1989. And so that's it. But and my memory is weird. Of course, memory tricks us all the time. But certainly, when watching the Stones, who I then loved, and I still very much appreciate now, there are a lot of grumpy men who weren't very open-minded, I remember, at that. Whereas at Blur, I didn't get a sense that there were grumpy people. People were very supportive of the support act. So on Saturday, there was some quite new, quite current bands. There was Jockstrap, who were a sort of London electronic duo, and there was the Sleaford Mods, who made a fantastically angry noise. I loved that. And then Self Esteem, she's quite good. She put on quite a good show. And people were very appreciative of them, and the crowd was quite full, even for the first support. And then on Sunday, the supports were a bit more trad. The Selector, so a nice bit of ska, a nice, very positive rant from about the NHS. He said, I used to work for the NHS, and I was never paid enough then, and people who work for the NHS now are still not paid enough now. And so it was a good sort of unionist kind of little rant for you there, Ed, from I can't remember her name, Pauline Black, isn't it? The lead singer of the Selector.
It has different connotations. It wasn't Trimble, was it?
Huh?
Anyway, no. Well, good. I'm sorry.
And then Paul Weller played. But anyway, yeah.
Good.
So Maxim says that when I was off on went on and on a bit, Max was you're describing a Max Kelly assembly. Yeah. Anyway, so there we go. Music is music, and it's obviously one of my first loves. That and the coast at Heartland, and you, Ed. So
bringing it all back.
So you were advertised. We were advertised by our great leader, Sir Tom Rogers of Teachers Talk Radio, as being our last show, which is inaccurate, isn't it? We're doing one next week, aren't we?
So far as I'm aware, I mean, if he doesn't want us anymore,
can you do the 19th of July? You're still at work next week,
still at work. Yeah, that's Wednesday the 19th. I will still be at work. I'll still be on the loose in the evening, looking for entertainment and fun.
Cool. So, okay. Good. Well, we'll do our last one next week, where we won't focus on any particular of the 7 deadly sins. We'll just review this journey we've been on together.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. So it's going to be greatest hits or greatest. I don't know what it'll be.
Greatest hits. I don't know what it's going to. It'll be a show.
Go through the statistics. You could maybe ask Tom to go through what were our 3 biggest downloads and see if we can revisit those themes. But I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I'll get that from Tom.
Listen to the thing. I'm not sure I've got time to do that. So
no. But on talking of Teachers Talk Radio and listeners, we haven't got Lucy with us tonight. I saw Lucy on Sunday at Blur. We had a drink together. She bought me a very nice double gin and tonic and wouldn't let me buy her one back. But it was lovely to see Lucy there. But she's got a governor's meeting this evening, so she's not in the live room. I'm sure she'll listen back. Someone called Millie, who I used to teach, who I now won't teach again, as we have both left the school, wanted me to shout her out on the radio as well. I'm not going to say her surname. So bizarrely, some of my year 8 pupils at last school got wind. I don't know. I didn't advertise it particularly, but I didn't equally keep it a secret either. And I've listened to a few of our shows, which is a bit dodgy, really. But you know, it's quite sweet. But she's quite a big fan of the show. I don't quite know whether she's a big fan of me or a big fan of the show. But she asked me to shout her out, so I'm shouting out Millie from year 8 at the school I used to teach at. There we go.
There we go. Well, I think that's beautiful. I would like to shout out no one from my school, because so far as I'm aware, none of them know it happened.
I hope year 6 aren't listening to you. No, listen to us. That's not right.
Oh, mate. Well, I don't doubt that my year 6s are listening, because my year 6s are in Normandy at the moment on a residential.
Are they?
Bless them, yeah. Bless them. In some poor villa somewhere. Isn't that lovely, though? Isn't that lovely that they're doing that? I think it's marvellous.
No, it's good. Is it a sort of PGL type villa? There's some good ones over there in northern France.
I have no idea.
No.
I have no idea. It's they're mostly doing D-Day stuff, is what it's all about. They're going to the beaches and going to the cemeteries, and you know, good for them. I'm sorry I'm not on that one, but there it is.
There we are. So, greed then. What are we going to say about greed?
Well,
I don't remember talking about gluttony.
I think we might have looked into this, but I'm not sure I'm entirely clear on the distinction. Are you?
Well, gluttony's about excess in terms of food or drink or anything we may choose to put in our bodies, presumably. Greed is more about money, isn't it? Really, and more about it's about money or about land or about ownership.
Yeah,
I think.
I think so. So, we definitely, in terms of the state system, and I think you might agree in terms of some elements of the private system as well, where we're in hard times in education, and it's hard to you can choose to lay blame lots of places, and I think you don't have to work too hard to see that people who are greedy for power and greedy for
Mm.
control
Mm.
are sucking up huge amounts of the energy in the room. Some of it's financial, some of it's in terms of how we speak about education, how we perceive it. I know there was a time a few years ago when various people off Twitter, if you wrote 3 successful blogs, you'd be invited to Downing Street, and
Yeah.
sit around a table and people would nod at you sagely and you would feel very, very...
That was a weird phase, wasn't it? It didn't last very long, but it was quite... Everyone got a bit addicted to it. I was quite intrigued by it.
They did, yeah. And people thought it was a genuine form of validity. Look at me. I'm not just some, 26,000 follower tweeter. I've written some blogs and I've been invited to speak about this in Downing Street to some people who nod and, pretty much ignore every single thing you say and then go away and you get a warm feeling about it. If you're really lucky, you get mentioned in the House. I mean, that's...
You become a czar.
If you're very lucky, you get to become a czar like Zsa Zsa Gabor. She was the only one I really cared
First Zsa Zsa Gabor. This is turning into an episode of Just a Minute. Very good, Paul Merton.
Thank you very much. I do my best anyway. So I was like, well, I don't know if greed is really a subject. And I thought, what, maybe it bloody is. Maybe there is a lot of people who are trying to get more. I could think of there's an early years advisor who's somehow trying to stake claim to the entire real estate of early years. And
that's not your friend Ruth, just to clarify, is it?
No, that's not Ruth. No, Ruth, I think, is not that person. But yeah, people who know will know what I'm talking about. People who don't need to know. But yeah,
is that do they work for Ofsted now? Did they come off Twitter?
This particular... I wonder if you're thinking of another person,
male or female. I'm thinking of quirky teacher who was quite...
Not thinking of her, but yes, she, despite not having an early years background, somehow started pontificating on early years.
She did. She was awful.
Position of great ignorance, and then got co-opted not into Ofsted. No, she got co-opted into the DFE.
Oh, that's right.
And that was very odd. Because why the DFE employing people who've done a couple of blogs? Simply this is not their area of expertise. They've just experienced expressed an opinion, just as I might or you might. But because it was an opinion that fitted with with the preoccupations of a certain education minister, they got wafted in. So I'm not thinking about them, but it's not too bad of a thing. This person wants the attention. They want the energy in the room. They want the power. It is a kind of greed, because if you're really into early years, then for most people, what they really love is being in a room of small people and influencing those children's learning and development. And just the joy of that. I was in my early years earlier today with a bunch of fabulous tiny children, 2 and 3 years old. I had the fabulous author Sarah McIntyre with me. She was reading them her brilliant story, Dinosaur Police, about a dinosaur policeman who eats too much pizza. I mean, the children thought they died and got to heaven. And then they helped her to draw a picture of him, and they told her how big his teeth should be and things, And I would rather be there a million times over than be, in an office going, oh yes, they must spend more time at their tables learning stuff, But
I think it's just. I think we are, you and I, and a lot of teachers are just not driven by power or money, right? So, I mean, I like money. I'm very good at spending it, and I'm very good at spending next year's money and the year after's money at the moment. But I'm not for a period of time. I did because I've grown up surrounded by affluent people, and my kids have as well, with some of their friends. And so, some of the houses I have visited are astonishing. It's like walking into a Love Island villa or a former stately home sometimes, but not all of them are like that. I just want to clarify. But I do know people who live in those sort of places. And but I don't want that for myself at all. When I was 18, maybe I kind of thought that was quite exciting, but I've never sort of thought, okay, if I do this job and I do this job and I change every 3 years and I go and work for this organization and I go and become a trader or a banker or whatever, then I can have that life. And I've never aspired to that. And I think it may have been slightly kicking against my mother wanting me to turn into my uncle. And my uncle is John Knott, who's still alive, the former cabinet minister in Thatcher's first government. And he was trade and industry secretary and then defence secretary in the Falklands War. And then he left politics and went to back into the city and became chairman of Lazard's Merchant Bank. And he made a lot of money. And he's an interesting, and he's a nice guy, but he's an interesting guy. And I'm quite like him in some ways, but I'm not like him in the way that I have any sort of strategy when it comes to career or making money. And I'm sort of almost kick against that, and my dad was a sort of ideas man and a farmer who loved nature. He wanted to make lots of money, my dad, but he didn't know how to. He was very good at spending it as well. And I don't know, I'm not driven by making money. And when I meet people who are, and of course I do meet quite a lot of people who are, I don't really become their friends, because I think people who are uh, because they're sort of, I do know lots of people. I have friends who have got lots of money, but they're not it's sort of almost been an accident, rather than an intention. Whereas for people where it's a clear intention, it scares me. And those people do exist in the teaching profession. There are people who get into teaching, who are quite sharp, who are quite quick, and realize that a lot of teachers haven't got any business savviness whatsoever. So they'll play the game, they'll climb the ladder, they'll get promoted into SLT quite quickly because of the way they go about it. And I suppose that's a form of greed. You're not going to make loads of money by being SLT. I suppose you can make lots of money by being a chairman or a chairperson of a MAT or whatever, but that's very niche. But so there are not necessarily financially greedy, but power greedy people, power hungry people in all walks of life, aren't they? In all professions. But I do think that people like you and me, and people who enjoy this show, and the vast majority of teachers who I admire and respect, and the vast majority of scientists who I used to work with, who I, whether in academia or in industry, we're just not driven by power or money, but the world is driven by power and money, and so maybe we're the fools.
yeah, I mean, yeah, I probably am the fool. I mean, that's fine. I mean, look at me, brain the size of a planet, and here I am, subsisting on lentils. But I can't do it any other way. You know. Ah, come on. Look, then again, what a holier than thou sort of a position we take. Look at us airing our voices on the radio. That's a very strange thing to be doing, isn't it? And well, you've been very disciplined about coming off Twitter, haven't you? And I admire you for it. I have not been quite as disciplined. I've certainly come off it quite a lot. But both of us had a time when we were probably checking our follower count and sort of.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's addictive. It's addictive.
There you go. It's addictive, but is it a form of greed? Could you look at it through that lens and say, out of the finite resources of the internet, I want my fair share and a little bit more, maybe. Hopefully you're offering something which other people are finding attractive or useful, maybe. But yeah, I think you could say there's a form of greed.
Yeah, there is a form of greed. Greed for attention, greed for approval. I suppose, yeah. And I am quite insecure, and if I put myself in a situation where, sorry?
So for both of us, there's a position of deep insecurity there, which we probably need to nod at. But
Yeah.
that's where when you're looking at the child who's stealing food from other kids' lunchboxes and raiding their Key Stage 1 snack trolley where they keep the government fruit. There are probably not very many of us. That we probably for a moment say this is a greedy child, but we also say this child who's not having their needs met at home, and maybe they're desperately hungry. That can be the literal case. This child is so hungry that they're raiding other kids' lunchboxes when the kids are going out to play. Or it could just be that they're not getting their needs met in another way, and it sort of comes out feeling like hunger.
Yeah.
So greed, greed is easy to say. Greed is the sin. Greed is the sin. But I guess those of us who look greedy or greedy for attention or needy, greedy and needy rhyme, which is rather kind of them, I think probably it's insecurity and unmet needs and all that. Do you think we ought to play the radio news at some
I think
point?
we ought to pause now, have the news, and come back and, I don't know, keep talking about something, and we'll see where we get on. Yeah, music. I've got to go to the music tab, and then I'm going to play the news, which may have some adverts and may have some tech updates stuck onto it. We'll be back in 8 minutes or so, everybody. Thank you for listening.
It's time for a fresh start to language learning. Pearson EdXL's new student-centred French, German and Spanish 2024 GCSEs cater to the needs of all learners, regardless of their background, ability or reason for studying. Rooted in learned language knowledge, their assessments are transparent and accessible, allowing all students to showcase their language skills. Through inclusive and relatable content, the new Pearson EdXL MFL GCSEs build a shared cultural capital that helps students develop an understanding of and appreciation for the wider world. Find out more at go.pearson.com/MFL GCSE 24.
This programme has been brought to you by the Happy Confident Company. Our clinically approved, ready-to-go wellbeing and mental health programme will help your pupils thrive. In only 10 minutes a day, you'll be able to deliver social and emotional learning and wellbeing tools throughout your school. To find out more, visit us at www.happyconfident.com.
This is Teachers Talk Radio, and this is Teachers Talk Radio News.
BBC News reports that the school run by Ruth Perry, who took her own life after a critical Ofsted, has been rated good after a new inspection. Ms Perry died in January after receiving news her school was being downgraded from outstanding to inadequate. Ms Perry's death prompted an outpouring of anger about the inspection system, although Ofsted defended its grading process and said one-word gradings would not be scrapped. The latest report comments on the work done by the school to address previous weaknesses. The new report raises again the question of high-stakes inspections. MPs are to hold an inquiry in the autumn and will look at how the system is working. Ms Perry's sister, Professor Julia Waters, said in a statement, "The reversal of the previous judgment in a matter of months illustrates why schools should be given the time to correct weaknesses before the final report is published, and that the latest judgment proves what all of those who knew Ruth and the school have known all along." Last month, Ofsted announced some changes which allow schools that were given an inadequate rating over safeguarding to be re-inspected within 3 months, giving them a chance to be regraded if they have addressed concerns. Teachers' pay has been in the news again following 2 further days of strike action from teachers in England. The Daily Mirror reports that Education Secretary Gillian Keegan is continuing to be under pressure to publish pay proposals or risk strikes dragging on even longer. All the major teaching unions in England are conducting fresh ballots after rejecting a £1,000 one-off payment for 2023 and an average 4.5% pay rise for next year. The government referred the decision on pay to the peer review body, who has reportedly recommended a 6.5% pay rise, but the DfE continues to refuse to publish the advice. The Guardian reports on Labour's plans for education should they win the next general election. The article itself focused on plans for early years, which could see more graduate teachers working in nurseries and more nursery places in primary school settings. Shadow Education Secretary Bridget Phillipson said she wanted to put early years on an equal footing with schools to give children the best start in life. The TES gave further comment on Labour's plans as the party set out how it plans to boost teacher retention and improve standards. The plan includes giving early career teachers a one-off payment of £2,400 for staying in the profession and sending regional improvement teams to help schools. New teachers will be required to have QTS, and they will also improve recruitment by cutting costs. The party, currently in opposition, has not made any comment on teacher pay. Finally, the BBC reports on what it describes as a crisis in waiting for children in care. In March, the government extended a ban on unregulated homes to children in care aged 16 and 17. This followed a BBC investigation which found some had been forced to live in caravans and barges, and some had experienced abuse. The crackdown begins in October, when Ofsted will begin inspections, and all unregulated care settings will become illegal. However, some local authorities fear they will have to continue the use of unregulated accommodation, usually in houses and flats in residential areas, because they will have no alternative. Regulated placements are suffering chronic staff shortages, and a squeeze on places at the same time as a rise on numbers of children coming into care is causing continued issues. A DfE spokesperson said it was the responsibility of local authorities to provide safe placements, but that it was investing £142 million over the next 3 years to ensure the transition to Ofsted registration is successful. This has been your Teachers Talk Radio News with Joe Fox.
This is 2 Minute Tech with Steve Woods, your tech briefing on Teachers Talk Radio.
Hello, this week I'm going to support a question everyone will see at the start of next year. It goes something like this. Hi EduTwitter, can you reply with where you are so I can show my class how far a post on the internet can reach? With a bit of free tech, you can make this much more visual. I'm going to use Google Maps because it's free, and most likely you'll have used Google Maps at some point in the past. So, when you have all your responses, sign into Google, go to Maps and click on the menu next to the search box. That's the 3 lines that look like a burger. From the menu, select My Places. You'll now have 4 options: Lists, Labelled, Visited, and Maps. Click on Maps and at the bottom select Create Map. Now you can give the map a title so you can find it next year for comparison and add all the places from your Twitter replies. Simply type the name of the place. When it appears with a blue point marker, you can click the plus sign to add it to the map and then select a colour to help it stand out. When you've finished, all the places will be saved and you can access the map by following the first few steps: Menu, My Places, Maps. There are loads of other great tools to use also. Measure the distance from your school to those places, hit preview and go into the view only mode. Here you can select a place and you're treated to a short bio and an image of the area. So next time you're looking to bring a lesson to life, why not try using maps to help pupils see where places are in the world? Do you have any top tips for mapping? Why not get in touch and tell us what you want to know about tech? I'm Steve Woods, and that was 2 Minute Tech.
2 Minute Tech with Steve Woods, your tech briefing on Teachers Talk Radio.
And back in the room, I have top tips for mapping, Ed. Huh? Can I hear you? Oh, have I gone AWOL? Ed? Can you not hear me? Hello? Oh, now I'm disconcerted. Oh dear. Do I just need to do a refresh? I'm going to do a refresh. Oh, okay. Can anybody hear me? Ed, Maxim, you can hear me. I've just refreshed. Ed, where are you? Hang on. He's connected. Oh, he's muted. He's unmuted. Ed! I can't hear you. No, what's occurring? In my headphones.
Can you hear me? Because I can't hear you. Hey guys, my name's Ed and I'm here in this show. Now I can't hear Toby. I don't know if you can hear me at all. Oh, that's nice. But Maxim, can you hear Toby? Because I can't hear a thing. Good. You get one or the other. They must have changed the system in some way so you can have one or the other of us. Hello, everybody. It's nice that you can hear me. Well, Toby, it's nice that you can hear me, but I can't hear you. And that's going to be problematic. What I'm going to do is I'm going to close the app and then come back in, okay? So I'm going to close the app and come back in. Hope this is great. See you guys. Yeah, guys, I still can't hear. I don't know if Toby's yapping away. I think we have confirmed this should be the final episode. Well, yeah, the technology seems to have gone AWOL, doesn't it? Don't know. Right. It's hilarious. Well, my friends, I don't know. Toby might be speaking. Is Toby talking? Someone tell me. This is great radio, this is. No, he's not. Okay, so it's just me. Toby is talking. What's he got?
I'm reduced.
We just got good news here in the Finch household is we have a packet of cheese twists. That is somehow the only news. So, Toby, what shall we do, mate? Not once for yes, not twice for no. Is that bloody? I'm going to refresh my end. Refresh your end. Good Lord.
Whoa.
Hey, well, listen, offspring, shall we have a conversation while Toby tries to refresh his end? Lost.
I've refreshed my end.
Yay! We're back in the room.
Back in the room. Everyone's back in. So I refreshed my end. It was not a euphemism, everybody. And Ed Reed logged in, and you can hear both of us, and we can hear each other.
Yeah,
Max can't. Maxim, you are taking the Michael. I'm sorry, Maxim.
I just disastrously dropped all my beer. That's a bad mistake.
You dropped a bit. Anyway, that was a great bit of radio. This is not the last show, everybody. I mean, it was good, really, because we'd run out of things to say about greed. So, I think, yeah. What else do we want to talk about for the next few minutes before we get to your song?
We can talk about what I'm going to sing because we haven't thought. I dropped the beer. Jesus. I dropped the beer very heavily on the floor. Douglas has now so helped himself to a tin. It's better gone up his
Good
nose.
evening. Good evening. How is Douglas celebrating post GCSE life? Is he on good form?
Oh, doing great.
He's doing great. What's the best thing that's happened since you finished your GCSEs, the Bob?
I've done nothing for 4 weeks.
That's not true. You went to the Cotswolds and enjoyed what I would like to describe as the creepiest place I've ever been.
Jesus.
Have you been to Snows Hill Manor near Broadway in the north end of the Cotswolds?
I have, yes. It's a National Trust property.
It is a National Trust property. Well, we just stayed in a... Well, I say we stayed. Douglas stayed in a cottage just over the wall from it. However, so many nephews and nieces decided to jump aboard what was meant to be a siblings away day that I ended up sleeping in a house 25 minutes away. However...
But that may have belonged... Was that a house that belonged to Kate?
It was. So I slept in that house, which suited me reasonably well. So yeah, no, it was good. So we had all three of my sisters. My brother sadly couldn't make it, but we had three of them, and then we had various partners and dogs and offspring of various people.
Any ferrets? Any ferrets? No ferrets.
Were there any ferrets?
No ferrets.
Alas, no ferrets. But yeah,
there was a ferret club at my senior boarding school. There was a ferreting club.
There was a ferreting club.
When
my mum was at one of her posh schools that she went to, she was a member of the otter hunting club, the beagling club. They went up rivers. There's photographs of this. It's a real thing. They ran up rivers, chasing beagles up the river. And the beagles chased and killed otters. You wouldn't get away with that in today's Britain, would you?
No. And but
unless you were very posh.
No. The ferret club was basically a decoy, though. So if you were in the fifth form, currently called Year 11, you could go behind the rec, which is the sports hall, and smoke your fags. If you're in the sixth form, you could go up to the wall, as it was called, which was a sort of muddy area by an old wall, and that's where you were allowed to. Well, you weren't allowed to smoke in any of these places, but that's where people did smoke. If you were in the third or fourth form, year 9 or 10, and you were experimenting with being cool and listening to The Cure and the Cult and so forth, and smoking your first cigarettes, then the ferret club was a good decoy, because you might smoke behind the ferret huts, and ferrets stink so very much that cigarette smoke was not really going to be detected very easily. So, but also, if at the weekends you could go out ferreting up the beautiful rolling valley opposite the school and pretend to catch some rabbits whilst basically tabbing away on whatever you chose to put into your lungs. And so it was a decoy club. I don't think anyone was remotely interested in ferreting and catching rabbits. There you go. That was a deviation, wasn't it? That was a deviation.
Did you cook this with sesame snaps? Because the sesame seeds are very sweet.
Not sesame snaps. No, Douglas is criticising my homemade replacement seaweed that I served with tonight's aubergine teriyaki.
It's very strange.
Have you gone vegan in your household?
No, but I do try to cook a couple of non-meat options each week to prove I can.
Oh, I tell you, yes, exactly. I'll tell you what we need to do before we finish doing this show is as we've got Douglas involved as a special guest, we need to broaden the Crediton pub crawl New Year's Eve and drum up some interest. And put Crediton on the map, not Crediton Curry House on the map. We don't need to put that filthy place on the map, but we do. No. And nor the Plymouth Arms. We ain't going in there again. But I think the White Swan. Oh no, we lucky to come out alive first time. I mean, anyway. I've got it in the diary already. Crediton pub crawl New Year's Eve with Ed.
It's locked in. It's locked in.
It's locked in. It is literally locked in the White Swan.
Yes, well, that was
Magic Mile.
That was a good night out, but I'm really looking forward to being there and not being a head teacher and not running into lots of ex-pupils of the school I'm head teaching in the pub, whilst knowing that I was definitely
very
really
drunk.
Quite
terribly. It's me, the 30th Duke of Wimbledon, me, Edward Finch, the former head of Chugford Primary School, drunk in a hostelry on New Year's Eve.
Sorely afraid I was going to speak the truth. So anyway, yeah, man. Anyway, that was a good night out, and if anybody in Radioland would like to join us, let's put that invitation out now, because.
I mean, I've got your sofa. Can I book your sofa?
You can have the sofa.
I ran away before you had a chance to cook me breakfast last year.
You did. I know. I was gutted.
Mother was in residence, but Lord knows what's going to be happening in my Devon roots by Christmas. Lord knows. Anyway, I'm down in Devon for all.
You know that you've got a sofa to sleep on, Oh, well, not on New Year's Eve. You won't sleep on a New Year's Eve, but you may well sleep on it for much of New Year's Day, I hope.
Some of New Year's Day. I don't think I'll sleep for it on very long because it's not the most it's a bit short for me really, but it's okay for a few hours.
Maybe I should invest in a like a sofa bed or something. Do you think?
I don't know. Don't invest for me. But Ed, but also before that, swimming. Are you going to be in Devon for a stretch of August?
Yeah, I mean, coming and going.
Coming and going.
So we will just have to look at the diaries and find out if there's times when we are both in the.
I think I'm there from like the 4th or 5th until the 20 early 20s. Anyway, we can arrange this on WhatsApp. Sorry, Radioland. Right, come on then. Songs. What we gonna do?
Well, I was thinking of a little bit of Sunny Afternoon.
Oh yes.
You were talking about the Kinks.
Yes.
I couldn't think of what else I knew by the Kinks, but I can definitely do a little bit of that.
And it's summer as well.
Well, it is. Yeah, it is. Sunny Afternoon, not Summer Afternoon, but you know what I'm talking about, don't you? Boom, 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 boom. The taxman's taken all my dough and left me in my stately home, lazing on a sunny afternoon, and I can't sail my yacht. Taken everything I've got. All I've got this sunny afternoon. Save me from this squeeze. I got a big fat mama trying to break me. And I love to live so pleasantly, live this life of luxury, lazing on a sunny afternoon in the summertime. In the summertime, why thing won't scroll, I don't know why. Oh yeah, in the summertime. that broke the magic, didn't it?
My girlfriend's run off with my car.
Run off with my car. And gone back to her ma and pa, telling tales of
drunkenness and cruelty.
Now I'm sitting here, sipping on my ice cold beer, lazing on a sunny afternoon. Here we go. Help me, help me, help me sail away. Well, give me 2 good reasons why I ought to stay. 'Cause I love to live so pleasantly, live this life of luxury, lazing on a sunny afternoon in the summertime, in the summertime, in the summertime. Oh, save me, save me, save me from this squeeze. I got a big fat mama trying to break me, and I love to live so pleasantly, live this life of luxury, lazing on a sunny afternoon in the summertime, in the summertime, in the summertime, in the summertime.
Yeah. We've still got 65 seconds left.
Oh, better do another one then. What else do we know about the Kinks?
Well, think about songs for next week. I think in our greatest hits show, which songs have you? We should have maybe 3 or 4 songs next week that you've really enjoyed playing on the show. I'll tell you one that I really loved remembering when it was Partygate was breaking. We did the Beastie Boys, didn't we? And there was someone did that.
You gotta fight
for your
right.
Party I'd like a reprise of that one. You've done a great many songs, but if Maxim, can you remember any particular songs that you'd like to hear Ed play again that you know you've heard him play on the show whilst we're in the room together?
Probably
Radio
not.
Silence. Radio Silence. Okay.
Yeah, he's gone. Well, I don't know. I mean, I have no recollection at all of what I've sung and played. It could be anything. So,
You've played some songs. You've played lots of songs. I think you played a Cure song once, which I'm very fond of. I think you played "Girls and Boys" by Blur. I'm not sure that's going to translate very well to the uke or the guitar. I mean, it's a sort of it's a disco beat, isn't it? Really.
Come on, how hard is it?
Keyboard.
What?
I got a MIDI keyboard.
Douglas is saying he's got a MIDI keyboard. He could spend a week working up.
Korg. Where's the Korg? I haven't had the Korg out. Maybe we should get the Korg out next week as well.
Yeah.
Get the Korg.
Get the calls out. Get your Korg out. Did you not give it back? It was you'd only borrowed it. I thought
Shades. I'm going to WOMAD with Shades, who owns the Korg, and he's actually coming here on this coming Sunday. Haven't seen him for a while, so he's coming here this Sunday, and then I'm going to see him less than 2 weeks after that when we go off to WOMAD together. So yeah, Korg-tastic maybe.
Do you think he's going to want his Korg back?
He's got 3 of them. I don't quite know why. Maybe because they're so random that he just wants to optimize the randomness. I don't know. So yeah, he'll probably will want it back at some point.
He wants to say, look, Girls and Boys has got a G minor in it. Oh, I don't like that.
G minor.
Girls who are boys like a boy, like a girl, who do boys like the girls like their boys. Always should be someone
really love. That's good. That works. Always
should be someone you really love. It kind of goes around like that for a while, doesn't it? Yeah, Happy Days. I mean,
Happy Days. And Paul's asking for Park Life. I used to do. I mean, I'm not really. It's so overplayed, that song. I loved it when 80,000 people were jumping around to it and singing it back in Wembley Stadium. But I prefer noisy Blur, less pop Blur, to be honest. But I used to sing Park Life once with a band, in fact, in Marden Village in Kent. It had a dodgy name. It was called Swinging Picnic in the Park. It was basically the village sort of. It was like a village fete with a sort of, but the church choir used to stand on the back of an articulated a lorry trailer or a flatbed truck, and used to do karaoke sing-alongs to some really, really boring old 60s songs. And I said, come on, we need to make this a bit more current. And I made it more current by singing a song that was already about 15 years old at the time. Yeah. But I used to do the confidence is a preference and the habitual voyeur of what is known as Park Life. And then Park Life. And then my friend did the chorus. All the people.
Well, that's marvellous. We could
good. Let's do Park Life next week, and others. Again, no roll with it by Oasis though, Paul. Stop it, whoever you are. Right, take care, people. We're going to go now. We're going to. It is possible though, just to leave you on this note, to like both Blur and Oasis, just like you are allowed to like the Beatles and the Stones. You can appreciate them for their different things.
I officially like Oasis. I officially like them because my band, we've got our first gig next week. We're very excited.
Oh, yes. Is this your little village beard stroking string group or whatever it is, guitar group?
It's not a village, of course, because it's accredited.
It's a town.
Because once upon a time, the capital county town of Devon has a cathedral, I'll have you know.
Ex-cathedral.
St. Boniface.
I like to speak ex-cathedral. Anyway, we're going to be at the Elephant on the Green. So if you want to come along, we'll be at the Elephant on the Green next Tuesday from 7:30, and we'll be singing a variety of songs. Most of them, I agree, a few decades old. We feel quite smug because we've got some which aren't from the 60s, and including a bit of Oasis, which we do very nicely, we think. And we sing, I would like to leave this city. This old town don't smell too pretty, and I can feel the warning signs running around my mind. And I don't think anybody who heard that song, if they didn't know already, would think it was by Oasis. It's sort of sub-Bacharach, isn't it? But we enjoy playing it and we enjoy singing it, and that's the main thing. We enjoy it.
Yeah, that's nice. What is that song? I recognise that song. I mean, it's probably a rewrite of someone else's song, if it's Oasis, anyway.
I mean, they're highly derivative, aren't they? But it's...
There's only so many chords at the end of the day, I suppose.
Still scratching around in the same old hole. My body feels young, but my mind is very old. So what do you say? You can't give me the dreams that are mine anyway. You're half the world away.
Oh, yeah.
Half the world away. You're half the world away. I've been lost, I've been found, but I don't feel down. That's what it is. But yeah, it doesn't really sound like an Oasis.
Half the world away. It's a B-side, isn't it? I think it's a B-side, maybe. Anyway, we got to go. Ed, lovely chatting to you. I've enjoyed.
It's been marvellous.
It's been marvellous. Take care, everyone. And please join us next week and spread the word, and let's have as many people in the live room as possible who, if you've ever listened to the show, those of you who listen back, if you're listening back to this show, please can you try and listen live next week? Get a Podbean account, listen in live, come in the live room, and we can have some fun with all our songs and our memories, and we enjoy our last show for a while before we come back for a special or something. All right, take care, everybody. That was a lot of fun. See you next week. Speak to you next week. Bye.
You've been listening to Teachers Talk Radio. Tune in live and listen back at ttradio.org. We look forward to hearing from you next time on Teachers Talk Radio.